We're only days away from E3, which means we might finally see more Breath of the Wild 2. Please? And there's a lot that we still don't know. Like pretty much everything. We're not even sure where the game is set, although we do see a glimpse at the world which appears to be the same one as before, which stands out in the series where the Hylian landscape typically changes significantly game to game. Or at least it looks the same until the castle does its magical flying act, and who knows where it goes from there. What does it mean? Okay, look, we don't know what it means. Maybe the castle is going to end up in a whole new world, or maybe it won't. Who knows? But it did get us thinking. How exactly could Breath of the Wild 2 build on the existing world if it is in fact set in the same region as before? After all, much of the magic of the first game lied in discovering the unknown. But how would that work when the world's already known?
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
Well, it's that exact question that we wanted to explore, as we have a few thoughts as to how Nintendo could reinvent the existing world to make it worth re-exploring with these 6 ideas. Why 6? Because 5 just wasn't good enough. Pop quiz, hotshot. If the world ends up being the same at surface level, where do you even go from there? Below the surface, of course. Yep, we're talking underground, baby. Caves, tunnels, and caverns are prime suspect number 1 for how to expand the world within the existing boundaries, considering we see Link and Zelda doing exactly that in the reveal trailer, which was almost entirely missing from the original game. Of course, we don't know for sure whether this tunnel is located in Hyrule or not, nor if it's even representative of gameplay, but we'd be surprised if it weren't. Do you remember this Breath of the Wild image that a lot of people assumed was just cool art, before climbing was confirmed to be like the main thing in the game? Just imagine a vast network of underground tunnels and caverns, stumbling your way through dark tunnels and grottos, lit just barely by whatever torch you happen to have on hand. Emphasis on might. It would lend a very different feel to the world, being dark and claustrophobic rather than the bright and open expanses of the surface. For all of its faults, Twilight Princess probably delivered the most compelling spelunking in the 3D Zelda yet, and we would love to see that realized on a grander scale, especially when paired with Link's climbing ability. Plus, it's not like the series is a complete stranger to vast underground areas. Subrosia, anyone? It's also the perfect excuse to mix up the gameplay, perhaps adding a tense horror-like feel as you evade terrifying beasts perfectly adapted for the dark, where you might have to snuff out your own torch and navigate by sound instead. The possibilities are endless. Furthermore, it would provide an incentive to re-examine the surface of the world to try and uncover the hidden caves that lead deeper underground. Maybe you'll find an entrance lying underneath the rock you blew up, kind of like an Ocarina of Time. Or perhaps you'll find one along a mountain passage that didn't exist before. Now, there probably would have to be some kind of explanation for the sudden appearance of these subterranean areas. And maybe the first one could be found in the pit left by the levitating castle, and perhaps the earthquake that accompanied it would reopen more around the world. Or maybe Link will have to find hidden entrances by way of some new tool. Perhaps a new Sheikah Slate ability? Especially since he already clearly had a deep interest in the underground. What, with their buried towers and shrines everywhere? So maybe the caves and tunnels could be their long since abandoned predecessors. Now, for as cool as caves might be, subterranean exploration probably wouldn't be compelling enough on its own to make up for an otherwise unchanged world. So what if we added some exploration in the opposite direction? Yep, now we're talking about the sky, baby. And this is, of course, the other possibility that the trailer might be hinting at. Assuming that's where the levitating castle ends up. And this seems like a great way to build on the glider from the original game, only now with actual powered flight, whether by way of a flying creature like a loft wing, or maybe through some kind of technology, which we already know exists thanks to Va Mido. Or hey, how about we slap some wings on that motorcycle? Or heck, maybe we can introduce a new Pegasus-like horse that you have to actually tame yourself before you can take to the skies. I mean, Breath of the Wild is already called an open-air game, so why not go all in? Especially since it could finally do what Skyward Sword didn't, and deliver a truly free-flying experience rather than acting as an elaborate world map. Just imagine how fun it would be to see Hyrule from a mostly new perspective, and that's not even to mention the gameplay possibilities it would enable, like having to dodge aerial attacks from ground-based enemies, or hey, maybe new flying enemies, or maybe you could accompany one of those flying dragons somewhere. Or hey, why not even ride the dragon? Really, the sky's the limit. Literally. Now, of course, Breath of the Wild sky isn't a terribly interesting place as is, and we need much more than just a floating castle to explore. So maybe whatever's causing it to levitate is affecting other parts of the region too. Wouldn't seeing an entire mountain range floating in the sky be pretty darn cool? And this could also transform the landscape below, giving new reasons to explore the surface where those mountains and structures once were. Heck, this could even be the explanation that we need for where the underground entrances come from. Okay, so we've talked about the sky and underground. What's left? What about underwater? Breath of the Wild is filled with a vast network of rivers, lakes, and even an ocean. But exploration of all of these is surface level only. And no, magnesis doesn't count. So what if Link finally gained the ability to breathe underwater and finally explore a world that remained hidden until now? You know, a little bit like in Horizon 2. There could be new creatures to find, secrets to uncover, and underwater temples to explore. Again, tying back to our cave idea. Ocarina of Time already played with the idea a bit thanks to the Iron Boots, and Breath of the Wild 2 could take the idea so much further. Much as Horizons 2 seems to be, which looks amazing. Come on, Breath of the Wild 2, don't let us down! So we've already tapped the 3 main ways of building upon the world's existing footprint, but there's a time-tested method to easily double it. A second, alternate version, like the Dark World in A Link to the Past, or a different time period as in Ocarina of Time. Heck, the original game even offered a small taste of that with Link's Memories, offering a glimpse at a pre-apocalyptic world. In either case, this would provide a way of remixing elements of the existing world in a way that makes narrative sense. But there are 2 potential downsides to this. One, unless a second world dramatically changes things, the overall geography would be extremely similar and could be repetitive and unrewarding in a world this big. Plus, let's be real, this idea is already way overplayed in the Zelda series, and it may not be a great fit for a sequel to a game that was all about breaking conventions. Up to this point, all of our ideas have been based on the world's existing footprint. But what if we expanded that footprint and went out of bounds? Hell, the original game already teased areas that existed beyond the limits of the explorable world, with arbitrary immersion-breaking boundaries popping up preventing you from getting too close. There's the unclimbable tall cliffs to the west and north, the impossible-to-reach desert that stretches southward, and an entire ocean to the east that you just can't cross, with land that even teases us from a distance. Stop teasing me, land! Could you imagine a sequel that expands the world in all 4 directions? One that removes those artificial boundaries and really lets us fly loose? What awaits us atop those tall cliffs, or across that vast desert? But perhaps the most exciting possibility lies in Iwata's own blue ocean philosophy. Literally in this case. Wind Waker already demonstrated how compelling ocean exploring can be in Zelda, but it would be so much greater in a truly open world game. And that ocean could be what connects us to an entirely new region, or regions to explore. I've been saying for years that a Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker hybrid with islands the size of the Great Plateau could be amazing, offering a series of giant explorable landmasses without feeling too overwhelming. It would also be a great way to address one of the Breath of the Wild's shortcomings, being its terrible sailing mechanic. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? A proper sailboat, perhaps one that you craft yourself, could really take advantage of Breath of the Wild's physics system, offering a more realistic wind-driven experience than even Wind Waker. Of course, a boat isn't the only option. Maybe there could be a horse of the sea, like a seahorse. Or maybe you could just ride side-on around everywhere. I know I'm not the first to propose that idea. And if they added underwater exploration on top of it all? Well, I'm getting wet just thinking about it. And that's not even to speak of the new wildlife possibilities, with giant sea creatures to encounter, and perhaps every island having its own unique flora and fauna. Expanding the world through the ocean just feels like a perfectly natural fit for a game that's all about exploring the unknown. Okay, so we've talked a lot about how to expand the world, but how about we take a look at one way to change it instead, while preserving the same basic geography? How might that work? We're talking climate change, baby! Whoops, maybe I sounded a little too excited about that. Let's just say that, for whatever reason, Hyrule's climate goes out of whack. It could completely transform the look and feel of the world. Imagine if the blizzards in the northeast move southbound instead, freeing the mountains of their snow-covered peaks and thick fog, while blanketing the desert of snowflakes instead. Or how rising temperatures could dry out parts of the world, draining the lakes and rivers, creating new ravines to explore. Heck, the ocean levels could even rise or retreat, creating new lakes and rivers, or exposing additional land along the shoreline. And maybe the lively jungle to the southeast has been turned into a wasteland, full of dead vegetation, making it a perfect home for the more unsavory types. Changing the weather could completely affect the feel of the world, feeling fresh while somewhat familiar. We're not expecting it to happen, but hey, Oracle of Seasons did play with the idea a bit too. So there you have it, 6 ways that Breath of the Wild's world could feel new again in a sequel, while technically still being the exact same region. But what do you think of our ideas? And what do you hope the developers might do? Let us know by posting in the comments below. And with that, thanks for watching, and make sure to click the subscribe button and ring that bell for more on Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, and everything else Nintendo as well. We'll catch you later. Bye everyone!